Let's go. What is up, YouTube? It's James from Robin Henry Watches.
Hello, James from Robin Henry Watches. Thank you for coming.
Right, so this week I want to get into this story. Everyone's been talking about it for months. There's been speculation. We now have confirmation. Rolex is out, LVMH is in for F1 sponsorship, which is, I think that for me, this is really interesting, especially from a business perspective of, what all the brands are up to. And more importantly, we'll discuss what it means for LVMH, but what does it also mean for Rolex? Is this the worst decision they've made? Because they're not known for making bad decisions, Yachtmaster to a side. So
no, they made a good decision. They killed it.
Yeah, that's true, right? So yeah, anyway, so let's I think where we're going to start from here is kind of Rolex's legacy in F1. So they got involved in 2013. So originally, we're led to believe they were investing about $10 million a year in this sponsorship, which, thinking back, that's
not much.
That's a great deal, right?
Pretty good deal, yeah.
Yeah, it's really cheap.
Like, I don't have that sort of money, but if I could get F1 the sponsorship, sponsor F1
your face on repeat
for $10 million. Anyway, so the deal is roughly costing them about $50 million right now. It's come up for renewal. They've been the main sponsor for this whole time, and it's not just around the track. Obviously, I've already given my thoughts before on how good their sponsorship is. I haven't felt that it's very tangible or connecting because it's just a lot of Rolex signs around. But there is all the other stuff that you don't see, all of the events, that brand recognition with a very affluent and what's becoming quite a young market as well, which is watching F1. So yeah, I just think their positioning there and the brand visibility has been great, especially, things like the Monaco Grand Prix as well is great. Obviously, they do sponsor other sports, which are generally more high-end, whether it be, like the tennis or golf, things like that. So this is going to be, it's a kind of a big change in direction for them.
Do you think it's going to have a big impact on the sport, Rolex leaving?
On F1?
Yeah.
No.
They just need a money gap filled.
Listen, F1 is a massive money sport. I think it's about, because we looked this up, it's about the 5th kind of biggest global sport. You've got weekend attendance at these races of about 300,000 plus people turning up, plus obviously millions around the world. I think their global audience is about, I've got it somewhere in here, I think it's about like 1.5 billion across the 2023 season. So it's a lot of eyeballs.
8 billion people in the world and 1.5 billion people watch it on a regular basis.
Although is that guaranteed unique, but still, it's a lot of people.
But you've got that, and F1 has turned a massive corner in the last few years because of this Netflix series, Survive to Drive, or Drive to Survive, should I say?
Close enough.
That's what got me into F1. You see, they brought in this younger kind of affluent kind of market, and they're the future of buying these products. So yeah, there's massive implications on their future growth. What are they doing? Where are they going to go with it?
So James, do you think other sponsorships from LVMH, whoever it may be, whether it's Tag Heuer and whoever else in their thing, will be able to compensate for Rolex's absence in F1?
Well, listen, I mean, I was going to get to this a bit later on, but ultimately for LVMH, it's a much better value proposition because LVMH is not one brand like Rolex is one brand.
Yeah.
They're obviously like known as the biggest global luxury, producer, retailer, whatever you want to, conglomerate, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, there's going to be, they can get their champagne in there,
They don't just do watches.
Yeah, there's going to be Moet champagne, there's going to be Hennessy. If they choose one brand to be the main sponsor, they've still got other sub-brands that they can get around. I mean, so for them, although it's allegedly about $150 million, so it's 3 times the amount Rolex is paying, but you divide that by the number of brands that they're going to bring exposure to, it's actually quite cheap, for a multi-billion pound or dollar company, whatever, euros, probably wherever it's based, but
it'll be interesting to see where they go in terms of the presentation of this sponsorship as well, because obviously Rolex is synonymous with F1 because that's all you see all the time everywhere. It's consistent, whereas you go with the one brand approach, brilliant, you can get so much power and impact from that. If you change the product or the brand every single week,
well, listen, I mean, let's talk about the LVMH benefits here. So at the moment, a lot of us are presuming Tag Heuer will be the main sponsor, because that makes sense. You know, they're the ones with the history with motorsport. They've been involved in F1 a long time. Yeah. So that would obviously be the obvious choice. Now, we don't know, though, because they've got other brands. They've got Zenith, they've got Hublot. I think, personally, that would be a bit of an odd if they did go with those brands, or they switch it up each week. But I guess they've got to maximize their values. But I guess for me, maybe I mean, they'll be the ones figuring this out, but Tag Heuer might be the main sponsor, but maybe they've got a separate little Hublot or Zenith.
Be a good opportunity to really raise the profile of some of the lagging brands.
Well, I suppose you could, with this sponsorship being LVMH, they could literally, for each circuit, they could put a different brand from their collective.
There's a question there of, do you lose some of the power of the brand identity and the association if you're changing it every week? You know,
yeah, so I think that, it wouldn't be quite as consistent as maybe what we've been used to. But listen, we don't know what they're going to do. So for me, it would make sense, it was going to be Tag Heuer. You know, their sponsorship deal with Red Bull is just ending, the team, so they could bring, Tag Heuer up to there. And maybe they use their other brands to sponsor, I don't know, either the Red Bull team, maybe Hublot sponsors that. Or, I mean, I'm sure they'll do events for all the other brands, whether it be, Bulgari or whatever, they'll do events at F1, the actual Grand Prix, the races. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they really leverage that. But I mean, LVMH, for them, it's only upsides. Tag Heuer has been, in terms of their brand awareness, has been down here for a couple of decades. Back in the 90s, early 2000s, Tag Heuer was as recognizable as Rolex. Now, I'm not saying it was as luxury or thought of as the same quality, but what I'm saying is its popularity. Everyone knew Tag Heuer. It's a luxury watch. Oh, it's worth, it's an investment, all this sort of nonsense, right? Now, I'm not saying it'll quite go back to that, but the popularity of Tag Heuer, if they push that as their main thing, apparently there's motorsports outside.
Tag Heuer's here.
The brand is going to, especially, not just immediately, it might take a while, but, younger people watching it as they grow, it's going to become this brand that everyone recognizes. And, maybe, obviously you've got the Indianapolis 500, which Tag Heuer is involved in. Maybe they get involved, more with Le Mans, and suddenly they got this triple header and they own motorsport globally.
Yeah.
And maybe they pick a range within their brand, like the Carrera, and pump it up. And next thing, years down the line, the Carrera is, is being thought of closely.
It's the racer's watch.
To the Daytona. I'm not saying it's going to be the Daytona. I'm not talking absolute nonsense, but it wouldn't surprise me if that's where we were in 10 years. Tag Heuer is this, luxury but also accessible brand, because a lot of the casuals that watch F1, they don't want to go chasing down Daytonas necessarily, but, drop a few grand on a Tag Heuer, that's accessible. It's the price of a bloody weekend race ticket.
Yeah.
So
go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, just going back to what I mentioned before about, for each circuit, you would change it. The way I would see it as an individual, it's a bit like football. Some of the stadiums are named after who sponsors them. So Silverstone, for instance, you wouldn't change the name Silverstone, but Silverstone's sponsored by.
I don't think they'll do that, because that's a bit tacky for F1. But listen, maybe they'll do different countries. For example, I'm just like spitballing here. Maybe like the UK will be one brand, Europe will be another, Asia will be another brand.
The brands that are at the top of their level within that area.
Market, in that market, I don't know, whatever the best selling brand for LVMH is, let's say in the American market, maybe that'll be that brand that's pushed there. That might be a way they do it. I mean, obviously it's up to LVMH to find a way to leverage it, but they've got so many other brands under there to push at these events, whether it be, luxury designer bags or
this wonder.
I mean, listen, they're going to pump it, they're going to milk this thing.
Of course they can.
For every dollar it's worth. And why wouldn't they? 150 million ain't cheap.
No.
So hear me out in this hypothetical. I'm not close to motorsport. Did Rolex still hand out a watch to the winner, or was that just for the?
No, you're literally thinking of the Daytona race.
Yeah, they don't do it for F1 though.
As far as I'm aware, no. But if I'm wrong, correct me.
I'm just picturing the winner getting a massive downgrade for getting his watch this year.
You won't have Zenith, because a lot of other brands sponsor the teams. So, for example, Ferrari is Richard Mille.
Mille,
You've got even like smaller brands like H. Moser's been sponsoring, and Alpine, the French brand. Before that, it was like Bell & Ross was doing Renault. Who's doing the RB team, like the junior Red Bull team? They're Tudor. So you can't start giving the watches to drivers because they've already got these sponsors. As soon as they're out their cars, they're strapping their watches on. Like before, they're like, put your watch on. They're like, oh.
I'm just picturing the winner getting a Zenith Chronomaster Sport after last year getting a Rolex.
Oh no, they're gonna be pissed.
Yeah,
So no, that's not a thing. They can't do that.
Or
But when they're
bag.
up on the podium, they're going to be popping Moet, not the Ferrari champagne anymore. And this is why it's such a great deal, and that's why it's worth LVMH paying triple what Rolex. But for me, so that's kind of the story that most people are focusing on. For me, I read this article and this guy was like, oh, what's it mean for Rolex? And basically he was like, it doesn't mean anything. No. And I'm like, I don't know though. I just think like, what's the Rolex strategy here? Are we just going to,
They don't need to save 10 million a year.
Well, it's 50 million, but yeah, I mean,
sorry, yes.
What they want to you're saying, oh, maybe they want to reallocate their budget. I'm like,
they don't do that.
Rolex make a lot of money and they haven't got shareholders to keep happy because, they're a charitable trust. Foundation.
They're paying for their temporary production facility.
I have a feeling I know what it might be, where they're putting their money towards, which I think will be coming on our next episode.
Into the Marga campaign.
Which we'll be talking about, but I think that has something to do
I know
with
what you're saying there. Obviously with their recent acquisition and, their future plans, but I don't think they need to say that. If anything, they need this to pull that strategy off, going direct to the consumer. That doesn't help reducing their brand awareness.
No.
So, and even if they're being pumped for more money, what's 150 million to Rolex and their foundation? Because Rolex aren't about, the next couple of years. They're 10 years, 20 years down the line.
Well, they're at 3 billion, I think, last time we looked. Something like that. I mean,
obviously, you're not going to know what the profit they make is because it's all private. But, I mean, needless to say, your Submariner, right, is not costing anywhere close to that retail price.
Nope.
In fact, if you actually saw their cost production price, there would be little crocodile tears flowing out of your eyes because you'd be like, well, Submariner's got to cost them at least a few grand to it. I think you're
expecting less than 10% of retail.
I reckon a Submariner could cost them as little as £500 to make. So, it's such a marketing machine. All of that, and it's the same with all of these brands. I'm not picking on Rolex, but it's like, their production costs are a small percentage. Their actual marketing cost is their main cost.
Of course.
So it's just
think back to when Submariners were going for £300. Inflation has not kept in line from cost price to retail that significantly.
It's only precious metal that makes things cost a little bit more because
but
you
those
buy
prices
precious
have not
metal.
skyrocketed.
They use a higher percentage markup on precious metal anyway.
Of course.
But so it's all about their brand visibility and cachet, and that's why it's for me. I'm just looking at this like, why are they giving it up? It's like the best sport really for them that they could sponsor.
Agreed.
How much bloody tennis and golf can you sponsor? And how many people watch it? I mean, I know lots of people do watch tennis.
I wonder whether it's a bit Rolex's. I don't want to use the word hubris because they were infinitely cleverer than I am, but I wonder whether the price, yesterday's price, stopped being today's price. And maybe it was a silly amount that they kind of went, you know what, it's not worth our time.
Maybe
we're helping
this is
you.
Their first misstep, and their ego got the better of them, and they were like, we're not going to pay that.
That's what I mean.
You need us.
Well, that was one of the first things I was going to say is it's so cheap, but maybe it's because they made a counter offer that's like, you need us partnering with your sport to be as successful. So that's why the price is going to be this.
Wrong. F1 is at the peak of its popularity right now.
I'd agree with that.
So to walk away at this point, and with a much younger audience, the perception of F1 and the luxury, the glitz, the glam, the adrenaline of the pinnacle of the sport of motor racing. Why would you give that up? Yeah. Like, why? It doesn't make any sense. Plus all the other add-on benefits they get, events at the racetracks, and all this other stuff.
They could go around with one of those sandwich boards and just offer out the stock that you can't buy in the ADs there. Drag people to F1, They make a killing. More people come to F1. They come to F1 for Rolex. Oh, it's silly, but that's the sort of shit they'd pull if they wanted to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I walked away from that.
The potential brand erosion over the next 10 years might prove that it was a really odd decision to make. Now, listen, like we say, Rolex knows better than us. They haven't taken a big misstep before, but it's not to say that they're not going to be at fault of it.
No,
you know,
this feels like something that is hard to misstep. Like, there's things you can misstep, watch design, Yachtmaster, all that, but this is hard to misstep.
What else could they come in? Unless they're going to come in and be like, right, we're sponsoring all football worldwide.
No, they're gonna pull a Rolex here, and they're gonna buy F1. They're pulling out because they need to sponsor it because it's theirs.
And they'll be like,
screw you, LVMH.
pay us 150
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the sort of stuff they pull, though. They pull out of
they
places,
do,
and they're like, you know what? We own the place now.
Why would Rolex buy F1 though?
I don't know, because they can.
Yeah, I know, but still, there's only so much, slapping your out on the table you can do.
It says Rolex.
I know. Still, I'm interested. I'm surprised that no one else seems to really be talking about it. They're talking about, LVMH taking it over it, but no one's like, have Rolex made a mistake here? Everyone's like, okay, Rolex is going to be okay. And yeah, Rolex is going to be okay.
There's the thing, Rolex isn't thinking about, are we going to be okay? Either they've made a misstep and they've no idea and they're not thinking, are we going to be okay? Or they know they haven't made a misstep because they've got 10 years worth of plans that are 10 times better. That's the thing. They're not sat there like, oh, they know. We f***ed up, or we didn't know we f***ed up yet, and it's going to come, or everything's fine.
Well, maybe they didn't even have a choice here. Maybe. Old Bernie, Arnold, rolled in there, set this deal up behind their back, and it was already a done deal, and Rolex didn't even have the opportunity. Yep. I mean, we don't know.
That seems like a more logical approach, now you mention it. It's something that if the decision was out of their hands.
Maybe they were at, I don't know, like Diddy's last party, right? They hook up this deal, right?
Yeah. That's why
That's why no one's talking about it.
Rolex wasn't invited to the party, and then suddenly, they turn up at, the next little F1 sponsorship meeting. They're like, you're out.
The logos have been graffitied over with Tag Heuer.
Yeah.
That's far more logical. And I think a lot of people are saying, why did Rolex pull out?
Alec Monopoly to graffiti over it. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's...
I'm in that camp now. I didn't even think about the lack of choice.
Yeah, maybe they didn't have a choice. Because, listen, F1, it's not about integrity or anything like that. It's about money, right? They don't care massively about the integrity of their sport. It's a business first. And listen, they have to be like that. That's how you preserve the sport, I guess, in a roundabout way. But and listen, does it affect the racing? The Grand Prix? No.
When you say integrity, sorry to jump in on that. You get one guy swearing just in an interview and he gets hammered like there's no tomorrow.
Community service.
It's crazy. I know we're talking about watches,
it's
but
backwards, old school mentality. It's ridiculous in this day and age. And you're talking about guys which are risking their lives. People die doing this.
I know, yeah, that's what I mean. And
they say an odd, you swore. You put the average person in one of those cars and they're risking their life getting smashed.
That's all you're going to hear down the mic.
Right? It's natural. Listen, I'm not saying they should promote swearing.
No.
But it's just all of this PC wokeness sometimes. They have it even in boxing. Like, they're literally trying to kill each other. They're like, sorry for the language. Oh, sorry, but bludgeoning that guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's sometimes it's just a bit odd, I find. Swearing is in our
It's because they're just trying to keep sponsors happy, but I think,
well, they've just lost Rolex.
People come to expect that sort of thing.
So LVMH.
I think
did they push? I reckon LVMH showed up with a check 5 times the size and said, this is on the table, but you cannot let Rolex counter offer.
Well, I'm going to say...
Because Rolex will just double it.
I'm going to say my point of view.
If you take that 150 million divided by the LVMH brands, well, it's way cheaper than what Rolex was paying. But it's to F1. Sorry, Matt.
I'm just saying that I think it's actually... I think it's going to be a smart move, but it's a secret smart move that we're going to find out. Like you say, Rolex plans 3-4 years ahead.
No, they plan way further ahead.
Yeah, well, you know what I'm trying to say. I think it's a smart move, and I think we're going to find out, not now, not next year, but the year after, what this was all about.
We're going to find out.
Maybe. Personally, I don't know. So to say that I do would be disingenuous. But from a layman's point of view on the outside looking in, I think it's a terrible move. I think to have lost the best sponsorship, in my view, in the world for sports. I just don't know why you'd let that slip through your fingers.
Like you say, you think it's a bad move, but you speak to anyone, right? I'm talking about the average Joe, like me, who's relatively new into watches. If you were to say, "Oh, name me a watch brand," without watching F1 or without watching anything, I'm going to say Rolex first.
Yeah,
and I think everyone will say Rolex
but
first.
why? Because subliminally, it's already been planted in your mind
Yeah.
through all of their advertising for decades. But now
At F1.
this is going to be coming out now. You know, we've talked about F1, you know, for ages, and it's because F1 dominates in its marketing. They're marketing geniuses. They've done a great job. But then to pull out so much exposure, that's why I'm saying it's
Most people refer to the sport as F1.
Yeah.
People don't even realise F1 is a brand.
Oh yeah, well, it is a brand, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, but most people say, "Oh, it's the Formula One racing." They don't. It's so easily conflated because they've done the Rolex of their own.
Yeah,
thing.
it's just coming back to why pull away from, you know, the pinnacle of, you know, marketing and sports. It's like, for me, it's like the best watch sponsorship deal out there. So that's just all. But listen, time will tell. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'll soon find out what LVMH is actually going to do with their sponsorship. We'll probably never hear why Rolex didn't take it on because they didn't talk to anyone or disclose anything. Because...
Wait 30 years and it'll be in another book sold by Rolex.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll wait and see. Let us know your thoughts down below. What do you think, you know, LVMH is going to do? What do you think it means for Rolex? I mean, I think we're all agreed Rolex is going to be fine. But I think, you know, do you think it's a massive kind of misstep or missed opportunity from them to not keep the best sponsorship deal out there? So we'll soon see. Let us know in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe. Ciao.
See you soon.
Yeah.